All right, good morning, everybody. It's 11:30 in the morning on this 21st of September, and you know what's going to happen. Earth, Wind, and Fire is absolutely getting played tonight. It's actually going to be the second to the last song. But what's going on today? Well, first off, this is Tara and Nicholas's big day. Absolutely gorgeous day. I'm traveling north to this venue called The Hill. It's up in Hudson, New York. I would say it's about a 42-minute drive up. And it's an interesting landscape because it's a very large campus. So first off, we have this horse barn, beautiful landscape. It's set towards the back. The reception area is actually on the second floor, so that does add some logistical issues, naturally getting everything up the stairs. But a little more importantly for me, the ceremony and cocktails also fairly far away. Now, I want to say it's around the 300 to 350 foot mark between the barn and where everything is. And for ceremony, no big deal because I have my secondary system, but I'm debating whether to run off my mains for cocktail or just go right off the ceremony system. Now, I have done this before. I have transmitted over, and I was finding some fairly clear spots to go to, but there was a couple very small dropouts the last time that I did this. And this is, I believe, the second time that I've run this venue with both my IAMs and my Mauis. So I'm in this a little bit of debate. I can go both ways because I have, all my music is on my USB drives as a backup, but also allows me to just quickly switch over to going to, say, my ceremony system for cocktails. So I'm going to play around with that idea a little bit. I also have my directional fin at the ready. If I do go that route, I am going to use that just to kind of tighten up the beam just a bit, and just to rule out just any potential issues and whatnot. Otherwise, tonight's going to be really just super eclectic night. Dance hall, 90s dance, hip hop from 90s, 2000s, 80s, 90s R&B, rock, pop, classic R&B. This really country. I actually got a bit of country for cocktail. Just really kind of runs the gamut across the musical spectrum. So, having these opportunities to have a couple with a very eclectic music style just really allows me maximum flexibility to do what I want. The only thing on the do not play that I remember off the top of my head was no modern female artists. So Pink, Gaga, and others. And that's fine. I don't need to rely on them, that's for sure. Otherwise, it's going to be just a really fun night. Absolutely, I don't see a cloud in the sky right now. It shows at 74 degrees. It is supposed to get up into the mid 80s, and up there it actually does get kind of cool at night. If the general area gets cool, it gets a little cooler there where it is in proximity to the entire area. So I wouldn't be surprised if they have heaters at the ready inside the barn and all that, but also I hope they have the fans out as well because you might need to circulate some air for the middle of the day. But can't wait to get this started, and let's keep on driving. All right, everybody, everything is set up for today, and I want to kind of give a tour of how everything's kind of going because it's an interesting setup with the way that the campus is kind of spread out a little bit. I've got some easier things to deal with today, but I want to go over all those elements. So first off, as you see behind me, NS7 III, Evolve EV50s. I don't need a sub in here. I've actually done 268 people in this room, and part of the reason you don't really need the extra, the acoustics, really high ceilings, because we're on the second floor and this happens to be a bit of a hollow floor, it really just kind of brings out some additional bass. Now naturally, if I really wanted to lug up a sub, I could, but it's just not even necessary even with some of the bigger crowds. Now, one of the interesting aspects of this room is kind of the way it's set up. So this is the dance area, and as we turn around 180 degrees, here's where we have the sweetheart table, and now they also have two tables to the side. This, of course, will be parents and wedding party. But if you notice back here, we have kind of a 5-step down area over here, and same thing for over here. And part of that is they have their dining areas kind of off to the center, and then to these valleys, if you want to call it. So I'm actually walking down the steps for it right now. And the sound doesn't travel quite as well into here, partly because there's some obstructions from some wall elements. Also being a little bit lower, the sound just doesn't carry as well. There's also air conditioners over here in the corner, and it just produces a little bit more of a challenge to make sure sound gets over here. So Maui's will ultimately go here tonight. I have them over there in the ceremony area. Those will get moved throughout the night, but this is actually a fairly small wedding in comparison. The 268 was filled to the brim on both sides. It's just on this side for today. So I think I'm just going to put the one Maui over in this corner, and we're going to walk out and just kind of give you kind of a preview of what the outside looks from in here. Let's go take a look out here, out this window. And as we can see out here, now that everything's kind of leveled out, it's just an absolutely gorgeous shot. And the ceremony area is actually beyond that tree. And cocktail hour, if you look way out in the corner, you'll see a couple high top tables. That's normally where cocktail hours usually are, but today they're going to be much closer, so I'm going to broadcast out of my mains as opposed to the cocktail system. So let's take a look downstairs and see what we got down there. All right, so let's take a walk downstairs here, and I actually want to show you some of the difficulties of the load-in. So this is the other side, as I mentioned before. Here are steps going down. Now, like I said, I've seated people over here in this area before, but today, again, much smaller wedding. It's going. Hello. Now, as you can see, the steps are definitely a challenge for loading, and luckily this door opens, so it makes for a little bit of easier. Put it on the cart or roll it a few steps over to the steps, but it's definitely a challenge, just lugging up steps and whatnot. Let's walk over here to the ceremony. Got some better adjustments on this camera now. Let's go for a walk. Of course, we have our wedding party over here on the side, waiting things to go on. It's about 2 o'clock at this point, so we have another hour before things kind of go off. Now, as you can see, this is where the ceremony area is. All right, so as you saw from the walk, it is a pretty considerable distance between where my setup is to right here. I want to call it probably about 250, 275 feet. In addition, now this is also not only a ceremony area, but also cocktails can typically happen from basically here all the way out to the barn that you saw earlier, that small barn. And, I have broadcasted out here once before. I had 2 Yamahas out here. I had power drawn out over here, so I left one Yamaha here. And I also just left my Yamaha over at the small barn where there was power. And it mostly worked. I did get some dropouts, and part of that reason is there's definitely some EMF going on in the area in general. One, it's a little bit more active radio area. For whatever reason, I do think there's a couple stations nearby. More importantly, inside the barn, I get spikes. There is a security system inside, and I'm not sure if it's, what frequency it's on. My guess is actually 2.4 gigahertz, because he had said that it sometimes knocks out Wi-Fi within there. So I don't necessarily think it's security system per se. It could be some additional things just going on wiring wise. I do know last time where I had that really, really large wedding and I had my speakers on the corners, I was getting some dropouts close to the wall, and I noticed it was actually close to some wiring that was in there. So I don't know, it could be just some improper grounding. It could be just some unclean power that's just causing some issues. Whatever it is definitely across the spectrum, causing basically what looks like pops. The signal could look fairly clean, and then you'll see some things come up. Now, I have done a couple scans inside. I believe I found what I believe is the cleanest channel. The longest I stayed on there was like a couple minutes, didn't see anything pop up. So I'm going to go for that particular frequency. I don't think I've been on that grouping before here, so hopefully I don't run into any interference. But basically the strategy is this. So ceremony is going on here. Everything's on one frequency over here. And again, remember, when you're doing microphones or IEMs with Sennheiser, Shure, whatever, you stay on the group and then choose a channel within that group. In addition, I have some mics going on in here, and of course I have my mics synced up where they need to be as well up there. So at the end of ceremony, I have this one pack right here. It's already synced with my reception rig. That is going to get turned on, and luckily with Virtual DJ I can control with my phone. So basically hop up onto that Wi-Fi really quick where my Soundcraft and Virtual DJ is on, hit play on that, sync up one of the speakers immediately with that, bring it over to Cocktail. Done with that, now I can fade this one out, and then once everything's kind of reset, I can get that pack synced up with my IEM from reception rig, and then have two speakers for Cocktail. So that's the strategy for this. Cocktail is going to run approximately 90 minutes. Ceremony shouldn't actually be too long, so I should have plenty of battery life, as well as actually going over with staff how good of a battery life I have gotten out of this. They were pretty impressed with the numbers. But that's it for now. I'm going to start getting ready for everything else and see how today goes.
I pronounce they are husband and wife. You may kiss your bride.
There ain't no ups and downs, no winning outs. You're here right now.
Tell me what you wanna, what you really wanna do. Tell me, baby girl, hey, I know what me like do.
Well, I don't really care what people say. I don't really watch what them want do.
All right, watching that gig log, you might have noticed that there were some big cinematic changes in some of the video. And this, I really have to give a big shout out to Andrew at River Story Weddings. I've worked with him a number of times now, and he was gracious enough to give me some of his footage to incorporate into this. So you'll see where, you know, his cinematic recording at 24 frames per second, you know, gives that really rich, dreamy quality, where my camera, That's filmed at 30 frames a second, much further back. I'm not, unfortunately, into the crowd. I just don't have the time to get those kinds of shots. So you'll see the difference between a true, pro videographer at the top of his craft, capturing these moments versus me, kind of being more the fly on the wall kind of thing. So again, Andrew, thanks so much for capturing this footage and letting me use some of it. Again, really greatly appreciated. So let's kind of just recap some of the things that happened both on video and off. Now, I didn't get all of this on video for ceremony, but I wasn't told that there was some readers on me. And luckily, I always keep my handheld at the ready just in case. So as soon as I heard, that they had a reader, I was immediately, mic in hand. As soon as that person was walking, I did the handoff, and there was actually, I think, 4 readers in total for the day. So pro tip for anybody doing ceremonies, always add at least a +1, if not as a backup solution in case a mic fails, if somebody's unaccounted for, like I had in this case. Just always nice to have that in play. But otherwise, everything went nice and smooth with ceremony. Cocktail was nice, definitely a bit longer than usual. Normally, you get a cocktail hour, 60 minutes. They had already planned 90 minutes on it, and they went over to about an hour 50 on it. They had to move the bar upstairs. There was just, kind of this more chill vibe to start off. So, we did about 2 hours in total between that and introducing them to the crowd. Got that going, got a nice little dance segment in between, got some food. And then we had 3.5 hours of dance. And, that has its pluses and minuses. You want to have that big raging dance party, but it's virtually impossible to keep that going for 3.5 hours straight. And with Terror on Neck, they really had kind of a disparate amount of music that they wanted to play, from reggaeton to freestyle, hip hop, rock, pop. Just a real kind of mash of everything. Almost nothing was off limits, and it was trying to figure out what the crowd was going to do for the day. Now, in some cases, people might dance all night. In this case, people kind of stayed in their lanes a little bit. They really kind of got up to certain songs. There were definitely a few players in there that really just danced to anything, and that's always awesome to have. But, it's hard to maintain a full, just hardcore dance party for that long. So I tried to ebb and flow things. I stuck to some groups because the music was so disparate in this case. So I had my freestyle group for a while, went to kind of a pop group, initially started off with kind of an R&B and disco set, got into a hip hop set, got into a reggaeton set, and then kind of mixed it up a little bit after that. But so I kind of do what I try not to do too often. I figured that the crowd was going to kind of fall off quickly if I just quickly changed lanes and hope that they would stay on. I saw that when I did my early set. Threw a couple mixes in there, and I saw people kind of fell off really quick, so I kind of judged that that's the way the night was going to be. And there's nothing wrong with that. You just have to quickly identify, how the crowd's going to be, and then just kind of work in what that you want to do, what your clients want to do, and now trying to read and vibe off the crowd and figure out how the night's going to ebb and flow. But otherwise, it was just a really, really fun night. It didn't get too hot, and that barn can sometimes, because there's no air conditioner in there, if it gets in that midsummer just heat craze, it can get really warm in there. But it was definitely a nice, comfortable night to have just a spectacular wedding. And as you see, this is one of the venues you have to contend with steps. And I don't know what's worse, if it's going up or coming down. I remember the first time I was there and I had my Yamaha speakers. I was kind of looking down the steps. I was like, if I drop this, and of course I didn't. But, once you have especially an exhaustive night and then trying to get all your stuff downstairs, it definitely could be a bit of a challenge, especially when you're fatigued like that. But one of the reasons that I have my EV50s is for setups like that. It really allows me more flexibility to not have to strain myself to get things upstairs, and to just basically do what I need to do without totally breaking my back in the process. Well, that is the video for this time. This is a new end cut scene for all this because of Andrew and his footage, and again, thanks so much for that. And so this is getting ready to be put out just a week before everything. I try to get all my gig logs kind of stacked up and edited as possible. I don't want to overflow everybody with a bunch of gig logs, so that would kind of just get boring. But in the same token, I want to get this nice stream of content out there between gig logs, between my 4DJs only stuff, between some of my client stuff. I like to try to mix it up a little and whatnot. So by the time you're seeing this, it's going to be close to the end of October. This was about a month prior. So just kind of give you, for the DJs who are thinking about making videos like this, it's going to be very seldom that you just kind of push out a gig log right after. You can, but it's a lot of editing and all that, especially if you're marrying up different audio especially if you're marrying up different audio sources, different video sources, and trying to get everything nice and just slick looking. But again, I really hope you like this video. Please hit subscribe on this channel. It'd be really appreciated, and like this as well. Or if for some reason you didn't like the video, hit the thumbs down and tell me why. I hope you've enjoyed. See you next time.